All right, bam, we're live now. Hello, everyone. Elliot from Matherspolitico here, and today we've got a very special guest, Damian Giri. Any opening statements, opening words you'd like to say to the audience?
Oh, Elliot, I'm really excited to be here today to have a good chat to you about all things politics in in an open forum.
There we go. Good to hear that. Already off to a positive start. First question is, for people, your voters in your area, the Hobsons Bay, who is the Damian Giri that they're gonna get to know? How are you going to be different from the rest of the candidates? Explain who you are.
Thanks, Elliot. Look, I think I'm coming into this election in the Strand ward of Hobsons Bay to really get back to the community, and I think the reason why I want to run is for a couple of reasons. One is I feel as though our multi-term councillors have kind of almost given up on the community a little bit and take the community for granted. And council's all about engaging, well, all politics is, but council in particular is all about engaging with the local community. And the second is, and I don't want to veer too much today onto me running as a Liberal or anything, but really want to sort of, I see a big opportunity for our council that's being missed here about, small businesses, a big plan after COVID-19, and really making Hobsons Bay and our little pocket of the inner west a great place to live and to really protect the village feel that we've got.
Yeah. What are some of the key issues that you want to highlight during your council bid? That grind your gears.
There's plenty, but I think my campaign will focus on a few, and it has been so far. I think one of the biggest challenges here is the council a couple of weeks ago now flagged a 2% increase for rates in fin year 21. Now they've masked it with a rebate for residents, so it actually becomes a slight discount year on year, but masking that rebate is only going to create more pain the following year, and the forward outlook is a 2% increase every year. So at some point, it's going to be a reasonable whack for residents. And that's really the key issue for me to make sure that we have a no rate increase for the next 4 years. And we really need to make sure that our residents and the community and businesses as well are protected. A couple of other main issues that I'm really lobbying for here. We've, as most people would know, we've picked up 4 bins in Hobsons Bay. We've got a glass, a recycle, a general waste from outside, a garden waste, and then just a general rubbish bin. So I think between the Labor Party and Hobsons Bay, we've had a very buckled rollout of this 4-bin system, and it hasn't been communicated well. And people are a little bit disenfranchised, I think, with the council because of that, and some of the issues there with, we've got a small waste bin that gets collected every 2 weeks, and then you've got to pay for a bigger bin, and then you get charged every year. And it's like, we've just got to make things simple for people and communicate with the community.
Yeah, four different bins, 4 different types of bins. That's pretty unheard of. It's like,
yeah, look, it's going to be rolled out across the state anyway, and it's part of the government's plan and not simplify, it's certainly confusing, but I think it's to make it easier for people that we can get the waste and the recyclables to the areas that they actually need to go to. And I think the system's pretty good. I think the challenge is that it's been so poorly rolled out, and it's been poorly communicated. And then I feel as though residents are being penalised still for wanting to try and do the right thing. And so I'm advocating that, if you want a larger waste bin for 2 weeks worth of general rubbish, then you shouldn't be charged for it. And then you shouldn't be charged for it ongoing every year like our council is now. And I want to make sure people do the right thing and have the right tools at their disposal to be seen and being active in the community to reduce waste in general.
How would... So you fix up the waste debacle. Is there any was there a tipping point for you to get into running for the council? Which one was the one that tipped you over the edge to put your name in the ring?
I think it's just council in general, to be fair. I think council should be balanced. Hobsons Bay is made up of 7 councillors. We've got 3 in the Strand ward. There's 3 positions up for grabs next month, and 2 each in our Cherry Lake and Wetlands wards. 2 of our councillors have been multi-term almost 20 years, or probably even slightly longer than 20 years. And it's a really long time. And all of our councillors, except for one Green, are deemed as independent, but they're a bit left-leaning. And they've made some great decisions over the last few years. But I just think that our planning, the council planning and the council outlook is possibly to the detriment of the community in the next 10 to 20 years. We've got, living in Inner West, we've got the Westgate Tunnel project going on, which is a multi-billion-dollar white elephant, I'd say, and that's causing a lot of pain for residents in the community. A lot of trucks, there's a lot of issues with soil contamination, and unfortunately, this whole area of Williamstown and Newport has been, it was almost the first settlement of Melbourne, and it's built on, a lot of crap, unfortunately, and it's been recycled over the years. So over years, and that's been compounded for 200 years. So the soil is contaminated, and that whole project's becoming a big white elephant and a big concern for the community.
Yeah.
And if there was probably one thing that I think that has grinded my gears is it's that inaction and challenge between local council and state government on this project that was really making me angry and giving me that fire to fight.
Do you have any words for your potential voters to show them that there is a certain trend that once you run for like the local council, there's a lot of other, especially if you're new into the council game, there's a lot of other higher powerful people pulling the strings and pushing agendas towards you. How would you tell your voters, your potential voters, that you're not going to get corrupted and that you're going to be different and do it for the community?
Well, I won't be corrupted. I mean, that's for sure. I think I'm a no-nonsense type of individual. Yeah. I've worked in corporate areas for the last 15 years since university, and I think I've got a bloody good, strong moral compass about doing the right thing. And I see council and this 2020 election as really doing the right thing for the community.
Yep.
And I've always prided myself on being open, honest, and transparent with colleagues, customers of businesses I've worked for, and what I want to be as a councillor for everyone, and really engage with the community. Because one of the things that I'm hearing quite a bit is the current councillors aren't engaging with parts of the community, or it's too hard, or it's, they do take, I think, some residents for granted, and I want to change that. And I want, the council and councillors to be more community focused.
So you mentioned in your moral compass, and honesty and integrity is a big part of it. Where does that honesty, where does your moral compass, how was it formed over your life? Do you have any defining events you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, no, I'd say it would be from my upbringing, really. I grew up in Bendigo. My mum was a single mother, and I was raised by her and my grandmother. And, look, we grew up in a Catholic household. I don't think that's really played a massive part in my life, and religion certainly hasn't. But what my mother and grandmother taught me was to always be honest with people and no bullshit, basically. It was always to tell the truth and be proud of who you are. And really that's what I want my legacy to be built on, that I could leave something here in Hobsons Bay for a generation to come and go, well, hang on, we had all these great councillors in 2020 and beyond who really stood up for the community, protected the village, and were open and transparent. I mean, I think the challenge is sometimes in all politics is that people are almost afraid of telling the truth and having a need to skirt around the edges and have a smoke machine to kind of, scare people or kind of confuse them. And what I want to be is an open and honest councillor. And even if the honesty is not what people want to hear, they need to hear it though. Deal with it afterwards. Well, we'll have to deal with that, I think. But if you're not honest and you're not starting from there, then you're kind of buggered, in my opinion.
Yeah, like they say, the truth does hurt, and the ones telling the truth are always the most hated in the room. And it only down the line is that people do realize that the one telling the truth was the one right all along and was the one trying to do best for the community or in that situation. So I think that's a very strong trait to have, especially for going into a council position or a political position, because you need to be honest.
Yeah.
Because far too much we see these councillors, politicians, presidents, prime ministers all around the globe waffling on. Like my family's from England, and say what you want about Boris Johnson, but my dad calls him a babbling buffoon because you can't get the words out. He keeps waffling. People just want straight to the point, honest answers. And people are going to love that, Damian. That's a very strong trait to have. And I don't think that will change, certainly from what we're talking about.
Thank you.
Talking about your upbringing, is there any certain, not political figures, but any inspirations during your life that you want to strive towards? Any family members, any politicians or celebrities or?
Well, I'd probably stick with my mother, to be honest, because I mean, the one that raised me and always wanted us to be better, to be a better, self, really. And look, as soon as I turned 18 and I finished VCA, I packed up and left Bendigo, and I suppose maybe it was too small of a town for me to be there, but I wanted, the big smoke in Melbourne and all. I've loved Melbourne. I mean, I can't hide the fact I grew up in Bendigo, and I love going back to Bendigo and visiting it, but I quite enjoy the hustle and bustle of a city. She really instilled in us quite early that, you've got to work hard for what you want. Nothing is easy. And campaign, even for council, isn't easy. So with a full-time job at the same time, but things are worth fighting for. And as sometimes when I struggle with this campaign a little bit and go, am I doing the right thing? And, when things are a bit shit, basically, I go, no, I am doing the right thing and I want to fight for the community. And look, if I do nothing else, I'm really trying to agitate for change in the community. And that's really what I see this, my campaign tilt is. And I'll learn from it if I'm unsuccessful. And I hope I am successful, but I mean, there's a number of candidates that are most likely going to be running. And, there are challenges with the with being able to get out and meet residents with COVID-19 restrictions. But I look back to when I was younger and I go, you've got to keep fighting and you've got to have that drive. I've committed and I'm going to make sure that everyone in our community knows who I am and what I stand for.
That's huge what you've just said there. Very, very inspirational for people to listen to that, especially if they're going to vote for you in the council. You want someone inspiring. You don't want anyone like a bit of a drag. You want that person, your leaders, to uplift you. And from what we're talking about now, you've got that type of personality. That's just, you just want to make people better. You've got a growth mindset. That's pretty amazing to have.
Thanks.
Especially. But
thanks. Yeah.
Well, so your mum played a big part in your life, and you wanted to come to the big smoke, and you wanted to get more opportunities. What did you end up studying at university?
I studied commerce. I think when I first started, it was a Bachelor of Business, and then it ended up becoming a Bachelor of Commerce. And I think that gave me a good grounding for the roles that I've had in corporate life since. And, I'm a reasonably balanced individual, but I think when it comes to working in large business, what I've found is you've got to ensure that your customers, especially in a business sense, are at the forefront of every decision. And running for council or running for any level of politics, residents and the community have to be at the forefront of every decision that you make. So I think over time, as I've matured and got a bit older and everything, it's really about focusing on the community and focusing on people, because that's what it's about. I mean, me being elected will be driven by our community and by the people. So, I mean, I've got to have their support, really. Like in corporate life, when you work and you get promoted and you work harder and you get promoted a little bit more, you're supported by people. And I've been fortunate to be supported through my life by good people, in corporate life, in family, through really good friends that I've had for many years. And what I almost see running for council now is giving back to the community and being such an active participant and giving back. And I don't mean to sound a bit wishy-washy there, but
no, you're not sounding wishy-washy.
This is what council's about, and it's about giving to the community. People go, oh, it's only about footpaths and it's only about parks and everything. It's more than that. It's about people.
It's the 1%ers. It's the little things that make the community thrive and achieve. Yeah. Exactly. Well, living in the Hobson Bay area, is there any points of interest you'd like to go to? What do you enjoy about the area you live in?
Look, I've only lived in Hobsons Bay for a bit over 12 months now. I've moved here with a partner who's lived here for eight or 9 years, and it was a move for me to come west, but I don't regret it at all. And we're 5 minutes from Williamstown Beach. We've got Altona Beach in our backyard as well, and there's a great little dog beach down there too, where we take our Labrador pup Lenny down there as well. But you know, the fact that we've got 2 beaches in our council is amazing. There's beautiful wetlands. There's a lot of nature, good parks, and I think the council has done a great job in making sure that we've got a lot of open space. There's still a lot of areas that the council needs to focus on, especially around Spotswood and South Kingsville. And I touched on before about the Westgate Tunnel, the challenges there. Sorry, I got a bit tongue-tied. Lack of open space there for residents, and I think that pocket really needs to be focused on, and that's what I'm advocating for in this current campaign. So to really bring it to life and make sure that these 2 small pockets of Hobsons Bay feel like they actually belong and they're not just taken for granted as well.
So I'm building up the picture of your ideal, Hobson Bay is just everyone. The waste debacle was simplified. It's easier, and the residents don't pay for it. And you've got open areas where people are just walking around, having a good old time, enjoying being outside. And you're leading that from the front. Is that you want to make people probably enjoy the little things. That's the vibe I'm getting. You want to make people enjoy their surroundings and enjoy being a part of community. Absolutely.
Life is meant for living, and I mean, we've got about 700 meters from my house is a beautiful part of the world called Newport Lakes, which has been redeveloped from an old garbage tip, I believe, many years ago, and it's this beautiful expanse of water and almost an urban bushland, really. And you go there and you just switched off from the world, and that's what suburban life should be like. Like, we've got such a unique proposition here. It's amazing, but we've got to improve on it and also protect it and make sure that whilst there is growth going on and there's a lot of sustainable growth and apartments and everything like that are being built up on main roads and thoroughfares, we need that. The community needs that to bring more business and support our existing businesses. We've got to protect those areas as well that we can enjoy, and on weekends or afternoons or whenever it is, get out there and have a walk and just feel like you can disconnect from the craziness of life as well.
So you're talking about disconnect and you're talking about switching off, and that's what suburban life is. My question to you, I always try and get this question in for the people we're interviewing. Are you a spiritual man? Do you like to meditate? Not necessarily religious, but do you like to meditate, like on thoughts and?
Not really. I probably should, because I'm awake about 20 hours a day, so I probably connect from everything, and that's an unfortunate byproduct of working full time and wanting to run for council. But I switch off by going for a walk and just headphones on, a bit of music, and just, you know, walking on great paths and in a safe space. Like, we're very fortunate that there is a reasonably low crime rate in Hobsons Bay, and that you can feel safe when you're walking, even at dawn or dusk. And that's a great feeling to be able to feel safe in your local neighbourhood. Yeah, so, but potentially maybe I should meditate so I can sleep a bit more.
Once you get into the council, maybe you'll look at that.
Possibly, yeah. I might go for 6 hours sleep. Who knows?
So, talking about issues, and I know we discussed this before we got into the podcast. What are some of your real world global issues that you're personally worried about in the future, or want to be addressed on a global scale?
It's an interesting question. I think the biggest issue at the moment is COVID-19. But what do we do after this pandemic? And, you know, taking such a global issue and applying it locally, is we've got so many small businesses that are hurting at the moment, that are struggling. That really, for me, is the focus. And part of my campaign, what I've been trying to do is support our local businesses by grabbing a coffee, grabbing a meal, and supporting them, because all of these great little cafes and pubs that we've got all across our area and everywhere are hurting. They're not taking in 50, 100 people for every sitting anymore. They're taking, 20% of their normal trade at best. They've lost stuff, and people are hurting. And I think that to me is really where the biggest focus from a global perspective needs to be.
Yeah, I like that you're running for council, but yet you're showing your actions are louder than words. You're not talking about helping the community and helping the community grow. You're actually doing it. And that comes back to your honesty and integrity of just doing the right thing and saying the right thing, saying what you know needs to be changed, and not being afraid to say it, but you're actually going out and doing it. So hats off to you for that one, because like we were discussing before, politicians, they like to waffle on, and they don't really do a lot of actions. They like to talk, but don't do the actions. But we're talking about the coronavirus. Do you have any? Would you have a different plan if you were in Daniel Andrews' seat right now? What would your plan be?
If I was Dan the man, what would I do or say? I think what I would say is, I've buggered up and changed buggered to a number of other words you could use there. And I'm sorry, and I'm going to fix it. But he won't. And I think there's enough evidence now out there that poor decisions were made through the hotel quarantine and our contact tracing that taking away from the hard work everyone does. But there's enough evidence out there now to go, something went wrong. And he stands up there every morning between 11 and 2 at his press conference, and he says he's fully accountable for everything. So just apologize to people. Man up and tell everyone you buggered up, because I'm a Liberal party member, but I mean, I take that away. If he said that, I've got a lot of friends who are members of the Liberal Party as well, who would go, thanks for just admitting that you've buggered everything up. And it would change everyone's perception, because I think more and more now, people in general are getting angrier that we're in this continual lockdown and rules continue to change, and this stage 4 is kind of another 2 weeks, but then you're in a curfew for another 4 weeks. And it's just honest with people.
You simplify things down, simplify it down, give them just a coherent plan out of this coronavirus.
Yeah, look, I think, I I feel for the government. Like, I mean, let's be fair. I feel for them, and you go, there's not a one size fits all solution to this, right? They're damned if they do and damned if they don't. But I mean, look, we can look back and go, yep, you shouldn't have, outsourced hotel quarantine security and all of this stuff. Like, I mean, the facts are there. That's fine. We don't need to dwell on it, but just man up and go, we buggered up. Yeah. We're going to get everyone out of there. We need to hold tight, but it's working. And I think, look, in fairness, as much as this pains me, these lockdown measures that we've been in forever, it feels like, are working. But I mean, they're not working quick enough. And they've saved lives, but the economy's buggered. The economy absolutely buggered now, and businesses are, like, I just fear for my generation and our generation, and then future generations behind us that are going to end up with this bill. Like, the last time this state was in a recession was in the early 90s or late 80s, early 90s, and then we had a shift of government that did privatize a lot of state assets to get us out of the debt that we were left with from the 80s and 70s and years gone by. But there's nothing left to be able to do that. So I just fear for the next 3 to 5 years after we kind of, get rid of or get into some type of normal routine again with living with COVID-19.
And that comes back to, it is a bit worrying for all of us, because where's this bill? We're the ones going to be footed the bill. Like, no one wants to pay for things that we weren't directly probably involved in with the decisions. And I feel like a lot of people have been quite angry that they haven't really been taken into account when making these decisions. There weren't really like a cohesive vote. This should be the right way. And it does seem that it's quite frustrating for me personally to see that Andrews and his leadership team aren't willing to look at different alternatives to the lockdown.
Well, no, and I think that's the scary bit now that keeps coming out. Like, ever since Sunday, when we were told we're in another 2 weeks of stage 4 lockdown, since then we've had the chief health officer say that he didn't agree to extending curfews, and we've got the police saying that they haven't. And I mean, granted, they've got great powers now to support them, but it's like, what's going on? And it just feels like every day and every article you read, the government of the day is jumping from one hot mess to another. And that's actually the scary bit, to go, have been elected, rightly or wrongly, 2 years ago, are clearly not competent to be able to manage through this crisis. And they're politicians, not the police and not the chief health officer, but the politicians that they're not competent enough to be able to do it. And that's scary. And you go, wow, like, in 2 years' time, when we've got a state election, all you need to be is competent, and you're going to be better than everyone now who's in government who's kind of buggered up the state.
Bam! Firing the shots, Damian. Is there any, like, with you saying this, is there any passion for, maybe if you do get elected into the council, do you want to take it to a state level or even a federal level, running for a seat?
Look, I haven't given it much thought, to be honest. I think you jump one bridge at a time and really involved with the community. And I think what I'm standing for is for Hobsons Bay, and I really want to be a representative for all of Hobsons Bay, in particular Strand ward. But we've got a lot of things to do here to fix Hobsons Bay once we're allowed out of the bloody house, I'd say. But to business and get life back to normal.
I like that. You want to start small. You want to start small and then build it up, and then everyone else around you will grow. I want to go back to your personal aspect in your life, and you're a proud LGBTIQ citizen. Hopefully, is that the correct terminology?
Pretty close, I'd say.
Is there any motivation or any events in your life that, from your experience of coming out, have transitioned into your passion to helping the community?
I think as I've got older and I reflect on my youth and I suppose my teens, I kind of, like as a teen, I was bullied a little bit, and I got told I was gay and all of these types of things, and I kind of almost blocked it out as a defense mechanism just to ignore it, and that's kind of how I've dealt with bullying probably through my whole life, is just ignoring it. As I've got older and matured my thinking and everything, you really got to be an advocate for everyone. Yes, I'm a proud, gay man here who's got a great partner, but I'm not advocating just for the LGBTQ community. I'm advocating for everyone, and everyone should be heard equally and fairly. And it doesn't matter what your ethnicity is, what your sexuality is, or anything. It's really about listening and hearing people. Everyone's got a story to be told and a challenge in their life. I mean, shit, we've got lots of challenges now, but everyone's got challenges and deserves to be heard. And that's really what I want to do. And I think that's kind of built the passion, really. I'm not, and I haven't probably been as much of an advocate for gay rights as I should have been, and maybe that's partly to do with my upbringing or growing up in a very Anglo-Saxon environment in Bendigo, and under the Catholicism rule that I think was built into us. But I don't look at it as a negative. I just go, I probably could have done more. That's it. But now it's about, cool, could have done more. Now we'll do more.
We're talking about challenges. Was that probably your biggest challenge in your life of growing up?
Absolutely.
How would you, if you were talking to anyone or any message for anyone watching this that is struggling to come out the sexuality, how did you achieve it? How did you face it as a person?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. Like, I was quite fortunate when I had that moment, and I told my mum and my sister and my dad as well that, yep, I'm gay. And that was it. That was kind of one of those moments I went, okay, cool, great. Can we have dinner almost type thing? And it wasn't, heard of people that have really struggled with it and had parents that are very, anti-gay and homophobic and all of this stuff. And I didn't experience that, but I always had this fear that I would be a little bit ostracized for being different. And look, this is going back, 15 or so years, and things have changed significantly since then. But anyone who's, coming out or anything does struggle with that, because, and I think it's becoming easier, but it's not to say that it's any easier than it, now than it was for me. It's just that I think there's a lot more education about it, and it doesn't define you. And this is the thing. It doesn't your sexuality or your race doesn't define you as a person. It's what you do. I'm not going to let it define me, to be fair. And I'm quite open with my sexuality, but I'm not making this, my campaign, hi, vote for me, I'm gay. It doesn't define me. What defines me is fighting for the community and fighting for everyone. And that's really what I want to make clear, that, that's what I'm advocating for.
I can sense that you're quite passionate about that. You're saying, I'm not allowing my sexuality or anything about me define me about this campaign, but what I do for the community. Like I can sense you've got real passion for that. You don't want anyone to put labels on you. Yeah, it is who you are, and you're proud to be it. You want to be that person that the community can rely on, not just because of your labels. Exactly. I like that. That's very powerful, Damian. Very powerful. Bloody Hobson Bay Council's got a little gem coming in the election.
Well, let's hope. I mean, we've got 6 weeks between now and when people vote. So let's hope that I can get my message out and that there is definitely an undercurrent of change that is required and people really want change. So I hope that my message is there and that I can actually be, elected.
Advocate for change, advocate. Is there, how are you tackling the campaign itself? Moving on to that, are you going or you can't do door knocking? You're running Facebook ads? How are you advertising yourself to the community?
Yeah, look, up until Monday, we can only advertise socially. So on, through Facebook, Instagram, all of those channels, and really, join groups, speak to people virtually. From Monday, we're able to letterbox and put billboards up or, call flutes on fences, etc. And I think that's going to help a lot of people get their message out. Half of me goes, okay, well, it's a level playing field, or it has been up until now, to really get your message out there. I mean, not everyone, uses Facebook and Instagram, believe it or not. Like, shock horror. It's amazing. But there are, especially in this area, there are a number of older people that the way that will probably get, known to them is through a letterbox drop. And so it's got to be, in my opinion, that is the next opportunity for all people running in elections and local elections next month is you've got to make that your opportunity and really work hard to get your message out in everyone's letterbox. And I love politics. I every election night, regardless if it's, state, federal, not even the state I live in, I'll watch because I'm that much of an avid person. So I love getting election material and reading it, regardless of party and stuff. It's just inspiring that people are getting their messages out. But I'm probably on the minority, let's be fair. So that 9 out of 10 people don't just toss my, information in the bin. I hope that they read it firstly, but, if they're going to put it in a bin, at least recycle it, I'd say. But I hope that, it appeals to people and they go, hang on, there's someone young and fresh who wants to make change and do good by the community. Maybe it is time for change.
Because using the word change a lot, and we previously discussed that there were multi-term councillors. Is there, have you met the councillors yourself? Have you spoken to them or?
I've spoken to them virtually. Yeah, look, I've spoken to them virtually, and look, they've been fighting for their community as every councillor would. I don't want to take away from the good work that they've done, and my campaign isn't to chit can them. It's not. What I'm advocating for is a lot of people are telling me that they feel as though the current councillors have been around too long and possibly lost that passion for community a little bit. And I've been in a few forums where I've experienced that, and I'm like, I feel underwhelmed as a ratepayer. I feel a bit underwhelmed with our current councillors. So if I wasn't running, I'd be agitating and trying to find people that do want to fight for that change and go, come on, let's get some fresh ideas and let's kind of shake up the institution a little bit. So that's kind of where I've I've engaged with them. I've had good conversations. 2 are independent in my ward and 1 is a Green. So on the political spectrum, I'm probably at polar opposites with our current Green councillor, but he's a good guy too, and we've had great conversations about certain things, and I think he's quite a moderate thinker. But I mean, at the end of the day, he and the other 2 councillors are politicians, so they want to get in, and I was probably given a bit of lip service, let's say, more than anything.
Interesting. Talking about your politics, your political compass. There's a big event happening November 3rd in the US election. Are you invested in the overseas elections for like the US election? Do you like watching the?
Look, I am a little bit, yeah.
I'll try and get this question out. Who's your pick to win? Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
It's a really hard question to answer. I think, look, and this is going to probably be fairly polarizing what I'm about to say. I think the first 3 years of Trump were great for the American economy.
Yeah.
And he went in there and he has run the US as if he's run his business. He's run it hard, he's made profit, and everyone prospered. And then COVID-19 happened and it all went to shit. That's the reality. And I feel as though Trump, I don't think, knows how to deal with the challenges that come up that he can't solve, right? I mean, he's a businessman and he ran the country for 3 years as a great businessman. What that means this year, I don't know. I mean, going into, 4 years ago at this time in sort of September, just as the US comes out of summer, he was written off by every news organization across the US. And their system's very different to ours. So, I mean, he didn't win the popular vote, but he got enough electoral college votes to be elected. So, from the state. So you go, wow, I mean, it could happen again. And my only hope is if he is elected again, is that they do focus on really fixing the health and the economy at the same time, because you need both to fire.
You do need both.
Yeah, but I think he's experiencing some of the same challenges that Scott Morrison is experiencing now with the states, Australia. And, Australia is made up of a federation of states in 1901, and the US is a group of United States. Very similar in that way that, their political system is, there's a federal and there's a state legislator, and they have different opinions and different rules and different ways of working. So I just hope that if Trump is elected, that he does work with all the governors and really addresses the health crisis. And I mean, that's a reality of what's going on in the US now.
I like it. I like your viewpoint on that, Damien. I like it. Very, very critical thinking and methodical. I also like to get this question out as well on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have what do you think about artificial intelligence, or you don't know not a lot about it? You know tons about it?
I don't know a lot about it. And I probably should. It's certainly becoming a big thing now.
Yeah. It is.
I'm probably not an expert or pretending to be an expert on that one, Alec.
I like that. I like it. We'll go back to the council. We'll go back to local. We delved in the global issues, and we'll go back to the local issues. What's another issue that you haven't listed on your election or your election page? What's it's not at the forefront, but it's also in the back of your mind that you'd like to work on as well for?
Yeah, it's like one of the other items that I really want to address if elected is our laneways in Hobsons Bay. And for anyone that's been down to Williamstown and Newport and in this great little pocket that we've got here, there's lots of laneways which have been around for a while, and for access into properties and everything, which are unsealed. When it rains, there's potholes, they become unsafe, and there's a lot of development that's gone on in the region, for the last 10 to 20 years, and subdividing properties. So you take one and you build 2 or 3 or 4, and you've got entrances from main roads and laneways. So they're getting used more, and they're becoming a bit of a hazard. People are dumping a lot of rubbish in there as well and just hiding it. We don't have hard rubbish in Hobsons Bay, but people sort of take advantage of it's kind of hidden, so I'll just dump some crap in the laneway. We need to seal them all and make sure that they're safe, that we remove the hazards, and that both residents and vehicles can navigate down laneways in a safe manner.
Talking about hard rubbish, you guys don't do hard rubbish, or why is that? Is that just the council?
No, look, it's a different hard rubbish. I mean, if there are things to be collected, you do get 2 collections a year, so it's different as opposed to it's hard rubbish day, let's chuck all the stuff out in the nature strip. So it's slightly different to the old way of hard rubbish. I'm really not quite sure as to how we've ended up here. I don't think the system's too bad. I can kind of understand why we have, and I think it does attract people who love to drive around all the streets late at night and find those little, nuggets of gold or a table with legs that they could put a leg on and fix it. And I mean, that's great. And I think it's a smart way of recycling. Someone's, trash becomes another man's treasure, right? Or another person's treasure. So I think the concept works. I think the old way of doing it probably brings in people at night and it becomes unsafe and all of this. So I think the system we've got is great, but I just feel as though, especially in Laneways, people who live around there are just dumping whatever they want because no one will see it.
And it becomes, well, you know where it is, so I can tell it will be like a little niggle in the back of your head.
Oh, absolutely. I walk past Lane. I'm utilizing my hour of exercise every day now, and there's a heap just off our main street, and you just see it and you just go, they've got weeds. There's, when it rains, it floods. You're just like, we just need to fix it. And it's interesting, like, in the council meeting the other night, the councillors are, going, yes, we're going to fix it, and it does take a lot of time and money, and it's like, well, we've got to invest in it. Like, we've got, pretty good roads around here now, and they are all reasonably safe. The council loves to put a good speed hump in everywhere. So let's maybe take some of that money and fix our laneways and fix these hazards.
In your personal opinion about your council, where do you reckon it's the most mismanaged? In what area?
I don't think mismanaged is probably the right word. I think decisions that have been made around parks and arts and protecting our wetlands, they've probably had too much focus on these areas and not enough on sustainable development and setting the community up for the next 10 to 20 years. There's a lot of development going on now in Altona North. We've got about 3,500 homes that will be going up soon and small.
That's crazy.
And I wrote, well, it is, but the land's there. And I think it's great to bring more people into the community to, live and spend money in the community. But you need a road system and you need a public transport system to support that or get you to the public transport. Like, I'm certainly not advocating for, a new train line or anything like that, but you've got to be able to get to the public transport easily by electric buses. But we've got to have the plan now and be installing it now, and not when all these houses come and go, oh, well, the traffic's now, we're in gridlock. Like, we've got to be building for the future now, not in 10 years' time or 20 years' time when we've got these grand visions. It's build it now.
So I can kind of sense where you most of your frustration with is, and part of to why you're running for and working for the community is that it's not mismanaged. That they're going to do it, but they're not doing it now. They're not planning for it now. They're not doing what the community wants now. So that's the feeling I'm getting from you, Damian. Is that, you can second that?
That's a very good feeling you're picking up there, Elliot. I think. So, I think you'll know this as well. Whenever there's new development, the roads always come later, or traffic management comes later, and I've seen it in areas like Hoppers Crossing and going further out to the west into Tarnee and all these new suburbs. They build all the houses and then they go, oh, hang on, we've only got single lane roads and got all this traffic. Like, hang on, you opened a subdevelopment for X amount of houses. Do you not think the cars will come and the people will come? What the people with the infrastructure? So infrastructure really is important. And maybe back to your point before about what the council haven't done correctly is probably that. I think they've got great plans, but it's about bringing it forward to now. And if anything, there are people that really will want work very soon. So we really should be targeting the community with that work as well, because people have been affected in the community, believe it or not. I mean, our council sometimes doesn't believe that they have been affected, and we live in a great little bubble here, but people have been affected. So jobs will be critical and infrastructure will be critical for Hobsons Bay.
Dang, we're getting a lot out of you, Damian, who you are and who's running for your local election. I'm talking about it's more with it's not the ideas are there, it's the execution. And is there any, I don't think we've stumbled upon the positive. Maybe we have, maybe haven't. What does the one thing that the council does is a positive that in your eyes that you would keep? Look, ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, look, I think they have done a very good job in ensuring that the wetlands and our parks and our open space is protected. I think that's a great thing. They've done some crazy things like declaring climate emergencies. I mean, I really don't think that's the job of a council, but sure. And that's fine. I'm not going to debate the merits of that. I think they've done a lot of good things, but I think it's about, we've protected and rehabilitated the wetlands. Cool. Now we need to rehabilitate the rest of Hobsons Bay and parts of the community and making sure that everyone gets to enjoy it and not stuck in traffic or, not dealing with toxic soil from state government Westgate Tunnel plans, etc. Like there's lots of things that we really need to be focusing on, as well as those. They're still important, but I think we've got to change focus a little bit to make sure that the whole community prospers.
Talking about the whole community prospers, the Westgate Tunnel, what was the problem there? So you're talking about the soil. Is it contaminated from the works?
It's the soil that we live on here in Spotswood, South Kingsville, Newport, is contaminated. I think they went into all their drilling thinking it was great soil. It doesn't take a scientist to work out you've got 200 years of crap underneath you. And that's now being shifted to a different council altogether, up in Bacchus Marsh. And, they've looked at Werribee and they just want to dump it so they can build their $6.5 billion white elephant of a Westgate Tunnel. I think, and that's coming from the state government. I think, we're in Williamstown, the state seat of Williamstown, we have a sitting Labor member who probably is giving our council lip service. I think there are challenges between the council and the Westgate Tunnel group, because it is that private-public consortium that's working on it and is involved in it. But the reality is, council should be working with its local member. Our local member is in the Labor Party, probably not doing too much for the community here to really listen to their concerns. And a lot of residents that live around Spotswood and South Kingsville are dealing direct with the Westgate Tunnel Consortium to make their concerns heard. And, look, I'm certainly not blaming council for it, but there's certainly things could be doing better to be, advocating. And, that's, I think, where there's definitely a mismatch. But the fact that we've got residents that are going to the Westgate Tunnel Consortium to have their concerns heard and their challenges about trucks and noise and dust and, the list goes on, and I feel for them in that area. As I've been told, I'll never know what it's like because I don't live there, but bloody hell, I'm going to fight for them to make sure that we minimise the impact on them.
And that comes from your community spirit and your honesty and integrity, knowing what's best for the community, not relying on outsources or outward sources telling you what's best for the community, but actually listening to the people. So that's a good point to talk about. Is what is the demographic for your local council? Is it a fairly older, or is it younger, or in between?
Yeah, look, I think it's probably in between. It's definitely a bit of an old area, and certain parts of Hobsons Bay have got a great migrant history from the 50s and 60s, and I think that's fantastic. And people have lived in that community for such a long time. Williamstown is a beautiful old area, and if you've got a great house down on by the beach, I certainly wouldn't be selling it. So that demographic getting a little bit older, but it's changing a little bit too. And I think a lot of the development around Spotswood and South Kingsville is bringing younger people into the community, which is great for a lot of things. Young people bring a life to the community and want to stay in their community, and it's a great community to live in. And I can't advocate enough for this pocket of the world. So for anyone who's more than 5 kilometers away, like bloody hell, when you can come here, come and visit. But and we've got to change though. We've got to, and this is where I focus on business, because if our businesses fail, then everyone in the community is going to go elsewhere, and you don't want that. Like I'm all for traveling out of Hobsons Bay as well. I used to do it on a daily basis to go to the city for work, but you've got to have that balance of making sure the community's got all its services and we've got great pubs, we've got great restaurants. They're the things we want to get our people supporting when they can.
Man, very community orientated. That's what we're going to keep stressing about. Your potential viewers, your potential voters who may see this, who are seeing this. Listen, Damian's all about the community, and it's all about building it from the ground up and making everyone else better, not just now and getting things done now, but getting the future set up for the future generations to prosper as well. So it's a very forward-thinking but present mindset, if that makes any sense, that you have when you're running for the local election.
Thanks. Yeah, it does. It does make a lot of sense, and I think, I don't want to get too wrapped up in things that have been done badly or anything like that. It's about the future, and that's what it is. But the future starts now.
Now that comes back to your upbringing and your growth mindset. Is that you're not focusing on the negatives, but you're seeing the potential that Spotswood, Hobsons Bay, your area that you live in. You see the potential and what it can become, and you're trying to get to that position, and you're trying to at least attempt it. If you do get in, you want to act on it. You don't want to speak about it. You want to actually act on it and realize and live that dream, that potential. That's pretty crazy, because a lot of like we're talking about before, politicians, they don't like to talk about that. They don't like to talk about potential. They love to dwell on what they don't have and talk about what they want, but they don't do it. And that's the vibe I'm getting from you, Damian, is that you want to do it and you want to help the community. Like, I know we keep restating it, but that's it. People need to understand that that's a very good quality to have in a politician.
Thanks. Just got to get it done, Elliot. Just get it done.
Get it done.
Pretty easy.
Talking about the wetlands near where you live. To anyone that doesn't understand why do they call a climate emergency? What is a climate emergency?
Look, I'm probably at a loss. I'm probably not the right person to really be speaking about the climate emergency that the council. I think people do fear for CO2 emissions that are happening. I think if COVID's done anything, it's kind of given the Earth a year off. But look, I think it's madness. I think council has a job. I think state governments have a job to do, and federal governments have a job to do. And it's sure as hell not the job of a council to declare a bloody climate emergency for Hobsons. It's its job to protect and rehabilitate and nurture our wetlands and our parks and our native vegetation. But, it's, this council, there are many other councils around who are, cancelling things like Australia Day and all this other stuff. And to me, it's kind of PC madness.
It's sort of problems that the community doesn't really need to get solved, but maybe it's what they want, but it's not what's needed for the betterment for the community. I feel like that's a lot of the councils, they get too caught up in bigger issues than their actual community issues, which is not a good thing, because they're there for the community, obviously.
Well, correct. And I mean, like, people joke about councils are about roads, rubbish and rates. And again, if you look, we probably have too many layers of government in this country. There's 3 layers and they all get in the way of each other. And I mean, now more than ever, it's on show. But councils need to be about the community. They need to be about local roads. They need to be about ratepayers. They need to be about your rubbish collection, your footpaths, your parks, and those general amenities in your community. Yeah, that's it really, and that's what we should be fighting for. We should be fighting for the mum and dad fish and chip shops and the cafes, and we've had pubs closing down this week that'll never open again with their current owners because of everything going on, and we've got to support those people.
Well, where does your community, your passion for the community, where does that come from? Going back to
yeah, I think it's just because I love the Hobsons Bay area. Like I think it's a great lifestyle to have. We're 6 kilometers from the city, so down by Woodtown, along the pier and along the Strand along there, you can see the city, and it's a great outlook. First thing in the morning, all day on a nice day when it's not blowing a gale, or at night when the lights are up. Like, it's great, and to have that so close to the city and see it, and all you've got to do is go over a big bloody bridge, is great. So we've got to embrace it and we've got to enjoy it. And I mean, that's the beauty of this area. And there is more to Hobsons Bay than just Williamstown. I don't want to get fixated on Williamstown either, but we've got Spotswood, which is a great up and coming little area. We've got South Kingsville, which has brought a whole heap of, first home buyers and those want to live closer to the city. We've got Newport, which is, a fantastic suburb, which has got a great amount of heritage. And that's really what makes up the Strand ward. And it's just amazing.
All about potential and positivity, you are, Damian, about the community. Not dragging anyone down. You're trying to uplift people. Need more people.
If I had another hour, I probably would. But, I also don't want to be doing that, because that's not where I want to take my campaign and what I'm fighting for. Like, what's done is done, and people before us, what they've done, fantastic. But now it's about change, and it's about getting back to the community and actually making a difference. And
that comes probably from your upbringing and the challenges you've been through, especially with coming to terms with your sexuality and coming out. You focus on the potential and the goodness and the positivity. That's everything of making of a good leader. Even if it's in the local council, you're going to make positive changes no matter what if you have that mindset. And positivity is better for everyone at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Got a bit of a fun question now. Do you follow footy? Are you a footy man?
Look, I am. I'm a Geelong Cats supporter. So look, maybe 2020 will be the year. Gary Ablett's back in the hub. Selwood's there. Dangerfield. Like, this was the team that should have won last year and probably the year before as well. But this is Ablett's last year, so I hope and I pray.
I hope he wins it.
This is our year.
We've got a question actually from the audience, from Jason J. Foster. He has been on a previous podcast, and he says, "What's your position on cannabis legalization, drug law reform in general, and pill testing?"
Oh, that would be a federal and state matter, I think. I'm certainly not going to take a position. Unfortunately, it's not a council matter, these types of things. So,
but if you would take a position, what would you say?
I think that I understand the safety and the science behind it as to the why, but I go, testing something that's illegal is still it's an illegal substance, unfortunately.
There we go. Good answer, Damien. Good answer. We like it. Do you have any closing statements you would like to add? Anything you urgently want to tell everyone?
No, look, I think for anyone that's listening or who will see this later on, and what I want them to understand about me is I really want to represent the community. I'm not in this for shits and giggles. I really want to connect with people and make sure Hobsons Bay and all of Hobsons Bay is better, and that we leave it better than we found it, whenever that may be. We've got people here that have been here for 2, 3, 4 generations, but we want to make it better for future generations. I want to make sure that we are planning for the future now, and that we're building for the future now. It's not just even planning, it's building and getting the community to where it needs to go quickly. COVID-19 has thrown up so many different challenges for everyone, and we need to ensure that the community is looked after as a whole, and not just small businesses, but and medium-sized businesses, but our residents. And the current council still puts rates up 2% and, you know, hides it with a rebate and rolls out a new hardship scheme. But that's not community first. That's kind of, we'll kind of do it. And what I want to do is be fighting for it now and not kicking the proverbial can down the road for, 3 to 6 months before going, we'll give you a little rebate. Like, you know, the world is changing, it's moving fast, and we've got to be there for everyone in the community now.
Right. So I've written some notes down here, as you can see. And to conclude this podcast, unless you want to stay on and discuss further topics, I've got 3 things that sums up you correctly, Damian, from what I gathered through this interview today, is that you focus on the positivity, and you've got a very good growth mindset as well, and you're very community orientated, as focused on actions and not words. You want to get things done. That could be a good slogan. I know that previous state governments have used that, get things done, and federal government. What would your slogan be if you do have one? Or
well, I do have one.
Have one.
And really, the slogan is together, let's make Hobsons Bay even greater.
Bam! There we go. We love it. So, Damian, I think that's all for today.
Fantastic.
Any concluding statements? Anything you want to say? Have you enjoyed it?
Oh, look, I've loved it. It's been a great opportunity to come and have a chat about all things politics, my campaign. And as I said to you before we jumped on, I was not going to make it too much of a Labor bashing exercise. And I don't have, to be fair. I think and that's not me. I'm not about, bashing any side of politics. Everyone deserves the right to be heard, listened to. Now, whether or not you agree with them or not, that's your choice. But I mean, everyone deserves that right to be heard. But all sides of politics need to fight for their community and improve it.
I like it. So that's it, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It's Elliot from Matherspolitico. And of course, a special guest, Damian Giri. Thank you for coming on our show today.
Thanks, Elliot. Thank you, everyone.